Hi, today I want to talk about another type of harmonic oscillator, a pendulum. So a pendulum, the bigger the angle we have for the pendulum, the more restoring force we have that's trying to bring it back down to its natural resting place. So as we release a pendulum from some initial velocity of 0, it starts swinging back and forth. You are getting sleepy. And what we see is that the position oscillates just as long as there's no drag or friction in the system, that it keeps oscillating back and forth. In this example, we have a pendulum that's being released from 10 degrees. So it's offset by this amount. And we're trying to describe its position, r of t, so some function of time, as it's swinging through its minimum, through that minimum hanging height back up to some other maximum height. So I'll approach this problem in 3 steps. You should notice that there's 1 degree of freedom in this system. I'm going to call it theta, that if I know the angle of the pendulum, then I know everything about the state, that I know where this pendulum is going to be. So the first step, once we've recognized that it's 1 degree of freedom, is create an equation of motion. There should only be one since it's 1 degree of freedom. Second step is integrate, that we should end up with some theta double dot of t is a function of time, theta, or theta dot. And then the last step is use theta of t to create the position as a function of time. So to get the equation of motion in this first step, I'll draw a free body diagram with the weight of the object. There's going to be some tension pulling on the object like this, or this is the angle theta like that. And I could also draw 2 components of the weight with an angle between them like that. So this has to be equal to, I'll draw 2 different ways. One is I could say that I've got 2 components in a Cartesian system, and the other way is that I could say that I've got 2 components in a cylindrical system. So ma theta and MAR. I'm going to save some math and a bit of a dead end, but it's a lot of extra work to use these Cartesian coordinates because we end up with these coupled differential equations. Negative x dot squared minus x y dot squared plus xyg all over L squared. And then y double dot is equal to negative y x dot squared minus y dot squared minus x squared g all over L squared. These are 2 coupled differential equations and they're pretty cumbersome to solve. So instead, I'll use this cylindrical form. In the cylindrical form, it makes it a little easier to deal with acceleration in this pendulum situation, because acceleration is r double dot minus r theta dot squared in that radial direction, er, plus r theta double dot to r dot theta dot e theta. These 2 terms are both 0. The velocity, that r dot, and r double dot, the radial acceleration, radial velocity. So that means my acceleration is negative r theta dot squared er plus r theta double dot e theta. So now if I look at sum of the forces dotted with e theta, this is equal to MA dotted with E theta, that unit vector, and this is equal to negative mg sine theta, which is equal to mr theta double dot. And this gives me my equation of motion. Theta double dot is equal to negative g over r times sine of theta. This equation of motion is nonlinear. And what we've seen before is that acceleration is directly proportional to position, but here we have angular acceleration is proportional to the sine of the angle. So we're going to do a linear approximation. We can say sine of theta is equal to theta minus theta cubed over 3 factorial plus theta to the 5th over 5 factorial plus all these. In grad school, we used to call these the higher order terms, or the HOTS. Because we're all engineers, we don't end up with the HOTS, we just deal with the linear terms. And we just put an approximate sign, that sine theta is approximately equal to theta. Now if we plug in this approximation, we have a new equation of motion, that theta double dot is negative g over r times theta. This is much easier to solve. This is a linear equation of motion, and this one is nonlinear. With this linear equation of motion, theta of t is equal to some a cosine omega t plus b sine omega t. And if I plug that in, I end up with a negative omega squared a cosine omega t plus b sine omega t equals negative g over r a cosine omega t plus b sine omega t. And I end up with this omega is equal to root g over r. So our natural frequency of a pendulum is square root of g over the distance to that pendulum. So theta of t is equal to a cosine omega t plus b sine omega t. The givens, so now we've integrated, this is a form of integration. We have two integration constants, a and b. So to solve for those, we say theta of 0 is 10 degrees, so 10 times pi over 180 radians equals a, and theta dot of 0 is 0 radians per second, because it's not initially not moving, and this is equal to b times omega. So that's 0, and we have theta of t is pi over 18 times cosine of root g over r times t. So this is my step 2 for theta of t. Now the last step is figuring out what r of t is. So I know what theta of t is. If I have this pendulum and I say theta is like this, and this is my ER, my position at any point in time is equal to that distance r, that r, times ER. But I want to know what direction that ER is pointing. So if I want to turn that into I and j components, I could say that this is equal to r times cosine theta I plus sine theta j. So my r of t is equal to that distance r times cosine of pi over 18 cosine root g over r times t in that I direction, plus sine of pi over 18 cosine root g over r times t in that j direction. And this is my final solution for step 3, the actual position as a function of time.